We've been talking about helping people ask questions as opposed to complaining and just dumping the problem on others. I'd like to dig into a particular aspect of the questions that we ask or the requests that we make. It started with a question that we asked at the Shabbos table as to what, if anything, what was a common person, allowed to request of a Navi? Was he allowed to ask the Navi for anything? So it turns out that the incident recorded in Shmuel, the Navi, is that Shaul requested that Shmuel help him find his father's donkeys. So he's trying to fulfill the mitzvah of Kibud Av, and he's trying to get Kish's donkeys. And Shmuel not only helps him with the donkeys, but he anoints him to be the king. In fact, there's an expression which I had not heard until I looked into this, that Bikesh atonot v'kibel malchut, that there's sort of an idea that somebody requested something seemingly mundane and simple and ended up getting something huge. But the question is, when we have a situation and we want to fix or change or alter the situation, we might make a request, but we have to know, are we requesting our own agenda, or do we want to do Hashem's agenda? Now, let's be clear on this. We are all, because of the nature of our being human, we all have a pull to want to satisfy the agenda of our basic living conditions, to be comfortable, to be well taken care of, to perhaps have wealth, health, whatever the case may be. What happens is that we sometimes forget why we're here. And why we're here is to inch our way from looking after our own agenda to looking after the agenda that will bring us more in line and closer with Hashem. So if the person was asking for his own donkeys, for example, the first question might be to the Navi, does Hashem want me to have the donkeys? The answer is yes. Hashem wants you to have the donkeys. Then it makes sense to ask for where the donkeys are, because I want to do what is Hashem's will. But the first question has to be, does Hashem want me to have the donkeys? If it's his father's donkeys, then that isn't a question, because he's trying to fulfill the mitzvah of Kibud Av. So it isn't a question of, should my father have the donkeys? That isn't his agenda. That's not his story. He's trying to fulfill Kibud Av, and so he's asking the Navi to help him find the donkeys. But very often, I find that people make requests. They want situations to change, something they're unhappy with, but they haven't asked, what is Hashem's will in this regard? Why did Hashem bring him this particular situation? What is Hashem looking for? What is Hashem trying to bring him to? Every situation is designed for my benefit, whether it's to grow, to evolve, to align our priorities, to rely more deeply on Hashem, etc. So when we focus on solutions, we're often making an assumption that, of course, Hashem wants this solution. Or sometimes we're not even thinking about whether Hashem wants the solution. The story ends with, I want the solution. And so there is a constant need, because of the nature of our physical being, there's a constant need to try to upgrade with what does Hashem want. In fact, if you look in this siddur, there's a insert in Shema Kolenu that can be said regarding Parnasa. And there's a fascinating clause. We're asking for Parnasa and sustenance from heavenly sources, etc. But the tefillah adds the words, Kidei she'uchal la'asos mitzonecha. That the request is being made with a specific intent to be able to do the Ratzon Hashem. Now, maybe we don't always think about the Ratzon Hashem, but we're supposed to be aiming in that direction. Now, what happens when a person is struggling between which direction he's aiming will point to a very big difference in the approach. So, for example, if somebody is interested only in their own agenda, they will end up with avodah zarah. They will end up trying to manipulate the forces of nature in the world to their agenda. That's what happens when a person is pushing in the direction of just promoting their own agenda. That's where they end up. So in today's world, we may not end up actually manipulating the physical world through forces, etc. Maybe that was removed by the Anshe Knesset Agadola, but we get pretty close. And skulas and things that start feeling as though we're just promoting our agenda and stepping on people and doing things that are contrary to halacha and etc. They are indicators that we are promoting our agenda without even asking, is this what Hashem wants? And the flip side is a direction towards alignment with Hashem's Ratzon. And at the extreme of that, there's Nevuah. There's a Navi who is entirely aligned with Hashem's Ratzon. Interestingly, when Anshe Knesset Gedola took away the pull to actually manipulate the forces of nature, on the flip side, we lost Nevuah. Now we have the Chacham, we have the Talmud Chacham, somebody who's immersed in the Ratzon Hashem through the Torah, and so he can become the one to be consulted to know what the Ratzon Hashem is. But essentially, we're always on this continuum. We're always on the line, either towards promoting our own agenda, and that leads to taking shortcuts, halachically, maybe even doing some manipulations that might be called sgulos, etc. And without having asked, is this really what Hashem wants me to do? Is this something that will bring me closer to Hashem? Am I looking to promote my agenda in order to be more davek in HaKadosh Baruch Hu? A person who, for example, who recognizes that if he doesn't have parnasa, it is very hard for him to serve Hashem, might ask for that parnasa, kedei sheh. A person who recognizes that if he doesn't sleep, he can't be appropriate in serving Hashem, starts to get angry or starts to get, to irritable or whatever the case may be. And so his sleeping, his eating becomes part of that design of aligning himself with the Ratzon Hashem. And so we're always in this struggle where we want things and we are called upon to say, why do you want that? Do you want that simply to promote your base agenda? because that can lead to really dark places? Or do you want that so that you can promote a more transcendent agenda? And it's never just black and white. We don't live in a black and white world. We don't suddenly become Davek in Hashem so that the only thing that we want is the Ratzon Hashem. We're struggling in the middle. We're human beings. The Navi has achieved that kind of single-minded focus. The hope is that the Talmid Chacham is approaching that kind of clarity, and so he can be aligned with Ratzon Hashem. But the business of living is about asking the right question. And so people come into my office and they start telling me what's the matter in their life. And I find myself asking, who cares? Who cares about this difficulty? And they think that it means that I'm an uncaring person. But that isn't what I'm trying to express. I'm trying to get them to recognize that if you want to change a situation, you need to know in what direction you're going to go with that. What would you do if so-and-so was a little different and life was a little easier for you? Well, then life would just be easier. Well, how does that help? In what way would that be transcendent? In what way would that move you forward? And so this is just a reminder of something that we're meant to be doing all the time. This is not news. Nothing that I'm saying here is in any way news to any of you. It's just a reminder that this is an ongoing part of the human struggle of trying to look at the requests, to look at the needs, to look at what we want, and to gauge what we want as to which direction it's heading in. Is it heading in the direction of just promoting my agenda, or is it heading in the direction of trying to align myself with HaKadosh Baruch Hu and being Davik in Hashem? And in the process, we are on an ongoing road of growth Be'ezer Hashem, and hopefully to be able to come as close as we can to Aseh Ritzoncha Kiritzono.